time frame, larger time frame, and this is how he started to talk about subdivision. He started to speak about subdivision. Now, subdivision is makes the things a bit interesting because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 you can see on a very large degree of from 1975 to 2000. You can see a very clear um, five-legged structure, three big stages of the market where there was some investors, large speculators, and everybody wanted to buy at 2000. But when you come to smaller time frame, it may not be very easy to see the five-stage market. So it needed a formal theory where one can actually count the legs, because counting became very important, because if you could not count the leg, you could not say, you could not formalize the theory. So Elliot formalized the theory by giving an approach to counting. And when he was doing this in 1930s, and he was making and he was writing um, a mailer, a news, a market letter, and he had claimed that this is the nature's law and this is the real theory, and that was the time he did not know about the Fibonacci structures. He did not know about them, and that was the time his friend and his colleague who introduced him to some high net worth clients. That was the time he told him that there is this interesting work done by Leonardo da Pisa and Fibonacci, and you should read that work because that work could be of interest to you. So it was only after that that he started to mix the Fibonacci structures with the price theory. Until the time he did not do it. Now, how could a mathematical theory be connected to a counting theory? Now, this is another, query which is not very much asked. That how is Fibonacci sequence, which is a mathematical sequence, connected to the Elliott theory? How today, like Elliotticians, do not really use the Elliott theory alone. They use Elliott and Fibonacci. They do not, there are very few Elliotticians I know who just use Elliott alone. So it always confirms to use the Fibonacci theory with Elliott waves. And what was the connection, and why Elliott did not know it, and how these theories start to gel is a question not very much asked. Now, this is what the sequence is. Leonardo da Pisa was born in 100 Osute Omie Osute Shapte Chinch, and he was the one who basically got the Arabic numerals back in Europe, and he was the one who really taught mathematics or counting back in Europe, and this was his contribution, and this is why there could be growth in scientific areas that could happen, and Europe could actually count because they could not do the real calculations. They were using the abacus, which was a crude way of calculating, and Arabic numbers were very good in higher calculations, and that was a good thing which came to Europe. So, but his contribution, the main contribution which he's still known for, is the uh, the mathematical sequence which he created. That sequence is very simple. You keep on adding a previous number. So if you start from 0 and you go to 1, and if you add 1 and 0, so it is 1. If you add 1 and 1, it is 2. If you add 2 and 3, it's 5. 5 and 3, 8. 8 and 5, 13, and so on. So this is the Fibonacci sequence, and this is the sequence, the ratios of the sequence, and like however you subtract it or you add it or you multiply it or whatever you do, you are going to reach the Fibonacci, the golden ratio. That is 0.618. Now this all may look like mystical work, but it is a mathematical sequence, and ratio of 0.618 is uh, is also seen in nature, and it's not very um, like occult. It's a pure mathematical sequence which creates patterns, which is basically creating patterns that are proportionate, because the sequence is proportionate. That is why proportionality, when it mixes in in various ways, in various directions, in three-dimensional structure, because environment is not about two-dimensional. Stock market may be two-dimensional, but nature is three-dimensional, many dimensions. And that is why when you are linking proportions in multiple degrees or multiple areas, you find the structure that are created or have a beauty, have a symmetry. And this is why proportionality or 0.618 is so widely seen, because nature has a proportional way of interacting with its elements. So this was the so 0.618 uh, is um, is a mathematical uh, number. So this is how some of the ways where you can see that the Fibonacci sequence of the boxes, or a simple box with a ratio of 5 by 3, if you start to subdivide it in a certain symmetry, you can see that simple you simple structures can start to create um, some symmetry, some pattern. And this is a simple box that has created a fractal tree. This is called a Pythagoras tree. So there are many examples on the web today which explain that how simple geometric shapes can create fractal geometry, how the Fibonacci sequence can create patterns. So these are the this is something which has not been explored about, but the magic of the Fibonacci sequence can be understood if you just sort the series, and if you just sort it in an ascending way, you get an exponential structure. You get an exponential structure, and this exponential structure is what we spoke about in the power law time frame. We talked about time being a power law. We talked about exponentiality. We talked about the Pareto rule. The Pareto rule is where 80% of the wealth is with 20% of the people. 80% of the price action is in 20% of the time. Markets remain inactive and with less movement for a majority of time, but it moves very fast in a very short time. So this, all these Pareto's aspects, and all these power law aspects is also in the Fibonacci sequence. So Fibonacci sequence, if it is an exponential series, where as you keep on adding numbers, the 1 and 1 is on the lower side, 1 and 1 is on the lower side, and as you go to the as you go from uh, 2 to 5 to 13, the numbers start to grow up very fast. So this uh, fast growth, or the proportional growth, you can see that there is proportionality in the structure. This proportionality in the structure is called the exponentiality, and which is also seen in the Fibonacci sequence. And this Fibonacci sequence, now one can understand, is also connected to the Elliott theory, because we talked about it, or rather there has been so much study done about it, that price structure, which we explained in the first slideshow on performance cycles, where we said that the price structures are have an exponential structure. If you take the BET-C stocks, and if you put their price performance, and if you sort their price performance, you will get a similar structure. There are prices which are growing very fast, and there are prices which are not growing at all, and there are prices which are falling very fast. So this exponentiality was seen in prices. This exponentiality is in SIFs. This exponentiality is also in Fibonacci. And this is why Fibonacci and Elliot are connected, are speaking about the same thing. They are speaking about proportionality. uh, Fibonacci is speaking about proportionality in mathematical numbers, and Elliot was speaking about the proportionality in prices, and Dow was the one who spoke about the proportionality on a multi-year time frame. So this is how Dow's work and Elliot's work and Fibonacci's work were connected, though their contributions were in a different time frame. Fibonacci came 700-800 years prior to Elliot, and Charles Dow came um, uh, 50 years 50 years prior, prior to Elliot, and Wilfredo Pareto came 70 years prior to Charles Dow. So there, though have they have been no sound. So should we connect again? Every You cannot hear me. All of you can't hear me. Okay, we'll try to connect again.